Hello and welcome to Success is Never Accidental, the show where we get to explore all kinds of systems and strategies and factors which influence success, and we get to interview some highly successful people. My guest today is Jen Gaudet, who's joining us from Texas. And Jen has had several really successful careers. She trained initially as a physical therapist, then did a master's degree in mental health, and combined those two disciplines to offer really successful sports performance coaching. And now she's a life coach, a life strategist, she's a business coach, and she's particularly passionate about growing businesses with professionals in the medical, accounting, and legal spheres who traditionally are very good at their profession, but maybe not so good at growing their businesses. She's always very creative, and I know today she's going to share some of the latest techniques and strategies that she's using with her clients. So help me welcome Jen Gaudet. Hi, Jen, and thank you so much for joining us today from Texas.
It's an absolute pleasure. I'm excited to be here.
So tell me this, what have you lined up for your day?
Well, I am literally recording this with you, having this conversation, and then headed to the TV studio. I have 4 TV shows that I'm recording. I have 2 shows, and we batch record 2 of each because I travel a lot. So I have several guests in town from out of town. I'm going to get to meet with them and then have dinner and maybe some business. Who knows?
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's roll back a little bit. I was telling people in the introduction just how many successful careers you've had and how you've had to pivot sometimes because, life throws us curveballs. And for you, it was relocating and systems not being what you were used to. So why is it so important that we're able to pivot, Jen, in order to be successful?
Well, Lynn, if you had asked this question to me like 20 years ago, I would have told you we don't have to do that. But the reality is the business world in every industry is changing so rapidly. So if we're not able to evolve and understand how consumer behavior is moving and what are the problems that are real and relevant today, then we suffer in business and we have to make a switch or a change, regardless of whether it's a change in career or a change in what industry we're in or our vertical. It's so important that we're able to be flexible and adaptable and have that resilience. And something that came to me, and we were just talking about this earlier with a client of mine, is it can change like this today. With technology, with social media, it's so fast. So we have to work that resilience muscle and be very flexible with how we approach what we're doing because of that.
And resilience, I think, is the key word, and that like emotional health is so fundamental just to being alive today. What are some of the things that you do or that you recommend to your clients do to maintain that mindset of emotional resilience?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking it. And I practice what I preach. So anything that I give to my clients, I personally do or have done, and it's science-based. But first things first, you have to build the resiliency muscle. And what I find when clients come in and they're successful in business, but they've kind of reached a plateau or they can't quite get to the next level, a lot of times it's because they've been in their comfort zone. Well, in order to build the resilience muscle, we have to step outside of our comfort zone. So one of the things that's a part of my daily practice is what is something that's uncomfortable that I'm going to do today? Whether it's learning a new skill, because that's always uncomfortable, or pushing out and doing a video on social media, which is uncomfortable for a lot of people. Whatever is that uncomfortable step, do it and push into that, because you're going to have some fails along the way. Yeah, you're going to have some resistance. But when we build that muscle, when we're not stressed, then when we are stressed, we fall back on our highest level of training. So if we're training outside our comfort zone every day, and we're maintaining that, when something stressful, a curveball in business comes, we're able to take that deep breath and rely on that resiliency muscle that we've been building by being outside of our comfort zone. Because let's be real, anytime something hits us with a curveball, it's uncomfortable. And I'll tell you a secret, the thing that's most uncomfortable for me is cameras. I don't like being photographed. I don't like being on television. I hate it, but I do it every other week. And I've been doing it for 4 years and it's still uncomfortable. But now it's not debilitating for me to press go and to get on a stage or to do anything because I've practiced for 4 years. And I just keep building that and adding on. So that's what I would say. I would say practice outside your comfort zone, do something that's tough and build that resiliency muscle. It doesn't have to be in business. It can be in, learning the violin or something, but do that so that you can build that up. And then the other piece of it is we can't be operating at 10 out of 10 stress all the time because there's no upside to that. So the emotional resiliency, I like to say, I worked with athletes and I create business athletes now. So on a scale of 0 to 10, athletes, peak performers operate in the 4 to 6. You need to be up for the game. You need a certain level so that you can perform at your best. But if you're operating at 7, 8, and 9, we have to have some techniques. I like breathing techniques. I do some meditation. There's some things that we can do to bring us down so that we're operating that 4 to 6 so that we have that extra bandwidth when the stressful things happen. So I like to do 10-point scales because it's just kind of easier. People seem to be able to monitor that a little bit. And then whatever that skill set is for you, whether it's box breathing or something along those lines, to bring your stress level down so that you're operating at peak performance, that's a habit too.
It's so relevant, isn't it? That whatever we do or whoever we're working with or whatever kind of a problem we're dealing with, we rank it. And I always say to people between 5 and 10, because we don't want to start at 0 or 1 or 2, because the people we're dealing with are always in the above average bracket. So if between 5 and 10, where are you now? So if you're at 7, okay, what do you need to do to get to 8? So we make it realistic and achievable. And then we can talk about, well, what are some of the things that you need to do differently? What are some of the extra things you need to do? What are some of the things, and here's the biggie, Jen, what are some of the things you need to stop doing if you're going to get to that next level? And building resilience is as much about not being a people pleaser and learning how to say no elegantly, learning to know, I love that word bandwidth, learning to know what you can do within your bandwidth and what you really can't do, and actually ensuring that you don't get into that state. And it's a word I absolutely hate, but everybody uses it nowadays, the awful O word. You don't get into that overwhelmed place, because you manage yourself, you manage your workload. And then let's go back to a point about you manage your physiology. Whenever people, like even nowadays, I remember I used to coach people to give evidence in court. What was my number one piece of advice? Breathe. Just breathe before you open your mouth to give evidence. The other thing is stay hydrated. People don't drink people don't drink enough water and take some exercise, even if it's just a walk at lunchtime, and then make sure that you have good sleep hygiene, because self-care is absolutely critical to being resilient in whatever kind of business or profession we're in. Now, I work with professionals in the children's child protection sector, mental health, and as you know, my husband is in the medical sphere. What attracted you to work specifically to coach people who are running businesses in those professions?
Well, first things first, I was in sports medicine for 20 years. I'm a physical therapist by trade with degree in psychology. So that's like my passion zone. And it's where I have always played. I was an athlete. I was always in healthcare. And so I've just witnessed the power and the impact when we have healthcare providers that are burned out or that are leaving the profession early because they're in that horrible O word of overwhelm for too long or what have you, or get to compassion fatigue, we're losing resources. And here in the United States, we lose between 10 and 11% of our brain trust in specialists in medicine every year because of burnout before their time. And so it's a real problem. When I left medicine in favor of really going into the business side of it, It was from a what can I do to take things off of our practitioners' plates who own these businesses and get those systems in place, get the right people, the right support so that their businesses can grow and they can see that financial piece, because you're treating patients all day. If you're having to worry about money and growing the business and all the other things, you lose bandwidth. That's basically what we were talking about earlier. So what can I do to help them set themselves for success so that they have the bandwidth to treat the patients if that's what they want to do, or to grow their business? Because when they are, operating in a peak level, their teams are going to operate in a peak level. When they take care of themselves, they lead their teams to take care of themselves, and patient outcomes improve, which improves our communities in our world. And I'm truly about impact. And how can I make the most impact? Well, I made impact as a practitioner and in my practice, but I could make so much more impact by coaching multiple people to do the same thing. And by that, my whole goal is I want to see public health improve. I want to see, improvements in our community. And that's a great way to do it.
And the outcomes for the people we're talking about are generally exactly that. They want to add value to their patients and to their clients, and that sometimes doesn't leave them enough time to actually be focused on either growing their business or taking care of themselves. But you're very systems driven, Jen, I know from our previous conversation. How do you help those professionals integrate systems to make their businesses even more successful?
Well, I'm going to tell you a secret. It starts with them becoming the CEO of their life. So I take the pillars of human performance and we set boundaries so that they can re-energize. Because if we start with a system in a company and they have no bandwidth, that just adds more. And they're like, oh, I don't have time for one more thing. So I always start with, okay, we're operating at a 10 out of 10 and our bandwidth is completely maxed out. What do we need to do? How do we take yourself off of the back burner and put it back on the back burner so you have the capacity to look at this and to actually message this? Because they have to. As the entrepreneur, they have to message this to their teams who also are burned out. So it starts with the pillars of human performance. Are you sleeping? The same things you said. We look at sleep, we look at hydration, we look at nutrition. And when they're like, well, I don't want to eat, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's fine. Get your blood tested, your doc or your practitioner, know what you need and supplement, whatever you need to do so that you're fueling your output and managing your stress. And so we start with the human side of the entrepreneur. And then once we free some bandwidth, we sit down and have a strategy session. And I will go in, or one of my team members will go in, and they will literally be in clinic, shadowing, seeing exactly what's going on so that we can find where the easy low-hanging fruit for efficiencies. And we start with the low-hanging fruit, the things that are the least amount of effort for the biggest amount of impact. And when we do that systematically, one system at a time, it's not overwhelming and they have free time. So our whole focus is, can we free cash flow and can we free time resources, like human resources, and with the minimal effort? And we start there when we just stack it, just like we do with humans, right? We have it stacked. We don't say, oh, I'm going to drink 8 glasses of water and I only drink 1 right now. And I'm going to eat, 7 servings of vegetables and I'm going to do all these things at once. We might do it for like 2 weeks and then we're off the bandwagon. We have it stacked. We start with the one thing and we implement the one thing. And once that's easy, then we go to the next and the next. And so it just becomes a part of who they're being and what they're doing. And they don't have to think about it. So we really kind of manage that peak human performance throughout the process. And I think that's kind of the secret sauce, honestly, Lynn, because so many people will come in and they're like, here's all the things wrong with you. You need to do all of this. We literally take it step by step with them. And so we are reducing that horrible overwhelm thing and freeing bandwidth. So I think that's kind of the secrets to success there.
I love that because it's incremental growth. And the other thing that we have to do is that we have to keep shining that light on the successes and celebrating those little things and then celebrating that accumulation of changing behavior. So tell us a little bit about some of the very creative things that you're doing to help businesses nowadays. I know you're really interested in the use of AI. in medicine and other specialties. Can you say a little bit about how important that is, Jen?
Well, I mean, let's be real. Artificial intelligence has been around for a while, and enterprise level companies have been using it for quite some time, and it's become available to small businesses. And I work in the small business space. And so when we think about leveraging technology to save 40 to 70% cost structure, or to save 17 hours of time per week for some of our team members, we must learn about technology, and we must utilize technology in a way that is not overwhelming, but that really frees up our time, our team's time, and our bottom line, so that we can focus on what matters most in the clinic. That's treating patients and having happy patients and having that higher level touch point, so that we're fulfilling what our purpose is, whether we're a practitioner or an entrepreneur. So as soon as technology became more accessible at the small business level, what was that, like November 2022-ish, I started learning, and I practiced with it, and I implemented it and integrated it in my businesses and my systems. And I continue to do that and to stay in the forefront, because when we are doing that, we're either, let's talk about tech. We're either on the bus or we're getting run over by the bus. I'm going to ride the wave, because I see that if we take those low value work, the mundane tasks that no one likes to do, all of a sudden that's off people's plate. They don't you reduce all of the turnover. You have better retention of your teams. You have happier teams, because they're able to actually have face time with patients instead of being like feverishly trying to do all the things and hastily checking patients in, for example, at the front desk. But each place that we have an opportunity to optimize, for the clinicians, it's as simple as error detection and correction. Hey, did you mean this? Typically you do this. This is your habit. This is what the research shows. Are you sure? It makes us better as practitioners. It makes us better as leaders, because we're able to do what we want to be doing in our zone of genius, and get back to being human. Like, AI is really there as a tool to be leveraged, so that we can get back to being human in our business. And when we do that, everybody wins, because happy teams means happy clients, means increased revenue.
Well, what a beautiful note to end. I could talk to you all day, but we'll end on that thing of the importance of happy teams, and how success is all just a combination of staying with that human piece and bringing people along with us. The engagement is so critical, and then all that incremental growth and learning. Thank you so much. You're so passionate about everything you do. It's been a joy talking with you today.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Lynn. Thank you for having me.
Well, that was the whirlwind of energy, ideas, positivity, enthusiasm, and strategy that is Jen Gaudet. And I just want to remind you of some of the amazing insights that Jen shared with us on that call. First of all, we need to continuously grow and develop. It's just part of humanity. We've got to keep growing and developing. Secondly, change is inevitable. So we have to embrace it by learning what's coming down the road, and figure out how we integrate that into our lives and into our businesses. As Jen said, we have to get on board the bus rather than stand there and wait for the bus to run over us. Then she talked about building our resilience muscle by doing something different every day, by getting outside of our comfort zone. We know all growth takes place outside of our comfort zone. So we have to stretch ourselves and test ourselves and do something different. And then she talked about how important self-care is. It's so simple, so why don't we do it? Tony Robbins always said, people know what to do, they just don't do what they know. So let's, as an action from this particular podcast, let's take action to do a little bit more self-care. And it's very simple. Have a good sleep routine, drink water, eat nutritious food, take exercise. And the other part that Jen mentioned, have fun. Build in time to see family and friends and have fun. So success is never accidental. Write down what is your strategy for success for the coming week, and join me next time on Success is Never Accidental.